Hello there, everyone. My name is Michael Elder, and I work with Academic Innovation and Gifted Services here in Onslow County Schools. And as part of our responsibilities, one of the pieces we get to put together each year is the magnet school process. So we'd like to take a few minutes here today to run through what the magnet school lottery process looks like, what you can expect if you come to the lottery, and also if you're not able to come to the lottery, to at least be able to see what it will look like to the folks who are there. There is no advantage to coming to the lottery. It's just that some people like to attend and see how things are going. So this is our process for our three magnet schools: Clyde Irwin Elementary Magnet School of International Studies and Cultural Arts, for Northwoods Elementary Magnet School of Innovation and Technology. Both of those schools, they're both elementary schools, K through 5, and both of those follow the year-round or modified calendar. And then we have our middle magnet school at Newbridge Middle, which is a STEAM magnet school. And Newbridge follows the more traditional calendar that the rest of the district follows. So we're going to walk through some of these steps. If you have any questions, we'll share different times during this presentation that you can email us. The easiest way is at magnetschools@onslow.k12.nc.us. So we'll talk about the priority list that's there on our screen here in just a second. Today, this is meant as the agenda for our magnet school lottery itself. And so there on that day, and also here, whenever you have a chance to watch this, we'll talk about some just general magnet school information. We'll talk about the lottery order and the difference between knowing you're in and being on the priority list. And so talk about that priority list. That gets usually a fair amount of attention during the lottery as well. So we'll walk through those, and then hopefully at the end we'll have a chance to actually do a pretend lottery, if you will. It is important to know your child's unique code. We established this several years ago so that we could post information on our website without breaching anybody's confidentiality. We want to make sure we're protecting our kids and their identities and where they might be on certain lists. So to protect your child's privacy, we use their first initial, their last initial, and their 6-digit birth date. And this is what we will use when we post the list at Jacksonville High School, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes, as well as when we post the list to our website. So you will find a couple exceptions. Typically we have some twins that have the same initials and obviously the same birth date. And so we might use a middle initial or the second letter of the first name, but generally you can figure out where your kid is on the list if you know your child's birth date and you know their first and last initial. So in terms of timeline, where we are now is we are on the eve of the lottery here. And so March 8th is the lottery. And then we turn around and we spend the next couple days trying to diligently stuff envelopes and get everybody their information as quickly as possible. We definitely will have those letters out by the week of March 13th. Hopefully you'll have them before that. Those will include both letters to students who are offered contracts as well as students who are placed on the wait list. You don't know whether you have a spot until you get that letter or not. We'll walk through how many openings we anticipate at each school, but that number is typically moving right up until we're finalizing those lists. And that final list really is after we had the priority. So we'll look at how many openings, and hopefully that'll make a little more sense as we walk through this together here today. And then what has to happen then is people have to return their contracts. So you have until April 14th if you got a contract in that first wave. And then typically at that point, we may or may not have more openings to offer. And so if we offer more seats, that happens sometimes when schools realize they have more openings, and it also happens when students turn down their contract offer. So we have a second wave, and then if we need to, then we usually just go to phone calls for our third wave. You need to understand that all three of our magnet schools follow a fairly strict dress code. It is not a uniform per se, but it does have very strict rules. And you want to make sure you know what those rules are, especially before you sign a contract, and that you agree to those terms. And then transportation. Transportation is not door-to-door service, but it is hub transportation. And so we'll show a couple of those examples here. These are this current year's times, but generally people want to know where the hubs are. So if you're going to Clyde Irwin or Newbridge, There are the list of where the hub sites this year are located. Every now and then we'll move a hub if it appears that a different school would be more beneficial to the large majority of people using that hub. But these have been pretty set for a while now. So like I say, every now and then they change. And then Northwood's hubs are those that are listed there. And again, those are based on where the kids are coming from and trying to make them strategically as close to parents as possible. Of course, you're always welcome to bring your child, or as long as it's a regular schedule, you can ride the bus in the morning and then be picked up in the afternoon. But again, that should be a regular occurrence, not something that changes day to day. Generally speaking, in terms of agreements, when you get the contract, your agreement is that this is for 1 year. It's for the academic year. You have the right to turn that down at the end of the year. But during the year, that agreement is something that is more or less binding, that, hey, we've decided we're going to this magnet school for the year. And then at the end of each year, we give folks the opportunity to say, yes, I'm coming back. And you don't have to go through the lottery again to do that, or to turn it down and say, I'd just rather go to my home school. We know that we have amazing offerings all across Onslow County. And so at times people decide to return to their home school, and at other times, most of the time, they decide to stay at the magnet school. And so that's the basic agreement that we're asking folks to consider, is that it's for a full academic year. One of the main reasons we do this presentation, and one of the main reasons that we do the lottery publicly, is that we want to ensure that everybody understands it is a computerized random selection process. There are no extra points for grades. There are no extra points for attendance or taking off points for behavior or anything like that. This is a random selection process. It's meant to encourage choice across Onslow County schools within our public school system. So what we do at the lottery itself is we create the priority list. So we'll walk through what that looks like exactly here in just a second, but every student will be put in order from 1 through however many applicants there were for that grade at that school. We then post those lists in the gym/auditorium area at Jacksonville High School. And that gives everybody a chance to see them while we are coming back to the office and working those next couple days to get them all posted on the website and to get letters out to all of you. We do not make offers at the lottery itself. All we can do is tell you this is where you are on the order of the list. So we can't say, well, you're definitely in. If you're at one of the schools and let's say there's 50 openings and you're number 1 on the list, there's a really good chance you could probably feel pretty comfortable. But it doesn't mean that if you're number 50, then, well, you're in because we're 50 spots. And the reason for that, again, we go back to schools are adjusting their numbers with us. And we may have siblings that are coming in as a result of somebody who's accepted. And so that can vary the number of spots, not the order that anybody is on the list. The order remains consistent and constant. And again, you'll be able to follow that list both on the website or by emailing us at any time. There is one additional process that began last year, and that's the superintendent selection process. These are 5 additional seats. We don't hold open extra seats. We fill all the seats we have, and then the superintendent can select up to 5 seats for folks at Newbridge Middle Magnet School. You can see these are the criteria that our superintendent has laid out for us. So to be eligible, a student has to already be in this lottery process. So it's not for folks who haven't applied. So you being on the list has already made you eligible for this. And you can see the requirements there is to do a handwritten 1-page essay on why you would want to attend Newbridge Middle Magnet School, and then 2 letters of reference, and you can see the address there. Those have to be to the superintendent by August 7th. You do not need to send them until you know that you have not been offered a seat. There's no sense writing all that and doing all that work if you've been offered a seat. So you may want to wait until at least after that second round of letters have gone out. And if you email or call us, we can certainly let you know where you are on the list there. And again, that's for the superintendent selection process. So at this point, if we were live, we would be going into the lottery itself. We would walk through that this is current as of just a few minutes ago here. And so this should be pretty much the numbers that we'll see at the lottery itself. We anticipate offering about 100 seats at Newbridge Middle Magnet School, and there are 238 applicants this year. 7th grade right now appears that they are full. They're actually a little bit over where we shoot for, which is 175 total kids. You might say, well, why are there only 100 lottery seats in 6th grade if you take 175 kids? Well, those other 75 are kids who live in the neighborhood around the school. We call that our home district. And so those kids are automatically placed there because that's their neighborhood school. And then you also have siblings of current students, and I think there were 16 or 18 siblings of current students in 6th grade this year. And then there's the only other variant to that is I think this year we have two students whose parents work at Newbridge Middle School, and they also have an opportunity to attend there as well. So that's where those other 75 come from, the kids who live in that neighborhood, the siblings of current students, and then, like I said, I think there are 2 staff children there as well. In 8th grade, it looks like we've got about 25 to 28 openings going into next year, so we'll be certainly sending out some offers there. When we look at Northwoods Elementary, we are looking at these as our openings, about 20 in kindergarten. You see 4th grade was a year, just remembering back in our history, that was a year that we didn't offer a whole lot of seats to that grade level when they came in as kindergartners, and so now they were down a little bit, and then now it looks like we've got a good chunk that we can put in there at this time. So it looks like about 5 at every other grade level. Clyde Irwin has 2 separate lotteries that we run. And again, students for the elementary lotteries, they can be in all 3 lotteries. They can be in at Northwoods, they can be in for Spanish language immersion at Clyde Irwin, and then traditional at Clyde Irwin as well. We're still working out some details in terms of the numbers for Clyde Irwin, so I can't tell you how many anticipated openings today, but we'll have that before we walk into the lottery on Wednesday this week. So one thing to know when it comes to the Spanish language immersion is that kindergarten, 1st grade, kids can more or less enter there either grade, but once we get up to 2nd grade, because kids are coming in with so much Spanish background knowledge at that point, those spaces, although the applicants are there, it really depends on their readiness. So those folks will generally do an interview with a teacher at the school to make sure that their Spanish is at least up to the level or close enough that they won't feel behind a lot. Then when we look at Clyde Irwin Traditional, this one again is still very much up in the air. So I'm going to ask you right now to look at those numbers under anticipated openings and read the zeros as more to be determined is what I probably should have put there. So I apologize for putting 0. Like I say, we're still working on exact numbers with the school, but we should have those before the lottery itself. So anticipate that there are openings there, and I apologize for not putting to be determined there instead of zeros. So at that point, we would have run through the actual lottery. So if you will bear with me for 1 second, I'm going to flip over and we're going to do a practice lottery or a pretend lottery, if you will. So I'm going to slide myself out of there. I'm sorry for moving around on the screen for you. And this is what the lottery would basically look like if you came to Jacksonville High School for the lottery itself. Is we have a very simple spreadsheet. This would obviously be a lot longer. This is just pretending we have 10 or 11 kids. And so we use Microsoft Excel to give us the general, as fair as we can, randomness using the random between function in Microsoft Excel. So right now, I'm going to check and make sure that we have our calculations on, and they're on automatic. That's good. And you will see over here, these are those kids' personal codes. And again, these are just made up. So as you look at those, you might think this is Aaron Johnson, who was born on April 30th, 2005. Excuse me. So what would the lottery look like? So let's pretend this could be for any school. But basically what you would see us doing is we would say, well, we're going to use a random number that is between 1 and, let's say, 10,000 or 1 and 1,000, enough numbers that is going to give us different values for each student. So I'm going to use 1 in 10,000 here. And now you'll notice what's about to happen is I'm going to take that same formula and we're going to copy it across everyone on the list. So at that point, I'm going to turn our calculations off so it doesn't change too much on us again. I'm going to copy all of those values. And you'll see we have a second one that's called copied value, which really is just our way to paste these in here so they won't change numbers on us anymore. So you'll see all those numbers still are the same, but we're going to paste them as values, and now they aren't that formula anymore. So with the lottery, then what we do is we go back and we delete out the formula. That way these numbers don't change on us. Excel has a way of doing that sometimes when we're calculating. And then what we would do is put everybody in order from smallest to largest. And whoever BEM happened to be there, we would say, well, that's first place, second place, third place. And we would put them in order on the lottery list. And that would then be printed, posted into the hallway at Jacksonville High School. And we would be right back to then doing the next school or the next grade level in the lottery process. So that is really as detailed as it gets. And what we do following the lottery, like I say, is we come back and we start sorting through the lists, and our goal is to get those letters out, whether you're on the wait list or whether you are being offered a contract. We want to get those letters out to you just as quickly as we can, and typically we can do that within a day or two. We do ask for your patience a little bit if you're calling or emailing, because in that first day or two, we need to set ourselves aside a little bit just to get all those envelopes stuffed and make sure the right labels are on them, so that you know where you are on that list. After that first day or two, we'll be glad, we'll jump on the phone, we'll be glad to talk to anybody, walk you through the process. And we are just thankful for you, we're thankful for your families here at Onslow County Schools, and that you give us the opportunity to serve you each and every day. So we welcome all of your questions, and please shoot them to us again at magnetschools@onslow.k12.nc.us. With that, I let you go and bid you well.